just did Oryx hard mode for the first time. We beat him.
Yeah, beat it for the
ass.
first time. We have done it before, but we have never finished it.
No, until Saturday night, was it?
Yes.
Kicked his scaly ass. It's pretty fun once you are not slamming your head against the wall trying to figure out how to beat the ogres and knights and master everything. Yeah. It's a pretty fun fight because there's so many mechanics that you really have to nail. There's so many little pieces that you have to get moving.
It's kind of an endurance test. Even, I mean, we knew what we were doing. We have done Oryx hard mode a lot. We were playing with people who are really high light, all like above 330, and it was still it was a chore getting to Oryx, I thought. There were definitely times, especially that relay race, the early phase relay race. I feel like the last couple times I've tried the raid, which I've done a few times over the last few weeks, the relay race has always been a real bitch. It's really...
I think that's just because people were rusty.
Yeah, I don't know. I've done it before where everyone isn't rusty. It's with people who do it all the time, and I'm not really dying. It just seems like stuff tends to go wrong on the relay race. I think because it's just a really long section. And if one person goes down, you can go down really close to the end, and it just takes a long time, and then you lose progress. But anyway, the raid itself, it almost feels like it would have been more comfortable if we had done the whole first part of the raid up to Oryx, and then the next day gotten back together at Oryx and just done Oryx. Yeah. That would have been really comfortable. Doing the whole thing at once still felt like a long time. I think it took us around 3 hours.
3 hours, yeah. Well, so we're still going to have to go back, and so you and I are both trying to get the moments of triumph for year 2. I don't know why.
Because you have to do it. You have to get the emblem.
Man, I've been going around and doing all the calcified fragments, and it's such a pain in the ass.
You don't like it, huh?
No, I don't like it at all. I'm gonna have to stand there and farm the Court of Oryx tier 2 runes over and over again.
I'll help you do it
until I get the ones that I need.
It's funny because I was telling you this, but I'll tell listeners that I actually liked getting a lot of the calcified fragments, the ones that you can just get on your own. I sort of enjoyed the process of tracking this down. I thought it was going to be a huge pain in the ass, but then when I actually did it, which this was back when I was really obsessively playing Destiny, but back when I did do that, it was cool. I sort of enjoyed going around, and I just followed a guide for a lot of them, but just going around and finding weird, hard to access parts of the Dreadnought and digging up fragments. I guess if I were doing it now, man. Yeah, if I were doing it now, I might be.
I got so frustrated when I was trying to do that scent chest where you have to get a buff that only lasts 60 seconds and then run all the way to this chest
and jump across the invisible platforms. It's hard. I remember I got it. I think I just had to max my agility and equip a Mida and just work out a pattern that was just perfect. It was practically like Super Meat Boy level. Required me to be perfect, and I got it with 1 second left.
That sounds terrible. I'm just gonna get you and someone else to come and stand on the platform, so I don't have to.
Maybe we can do that tonight. So we still have to do. I'm really close. I have to. I only have one, and I think it's just Golgoroth challenge mode. Is the only calcified fragment that I have left to do, which I'm not totally sure what it is. Do you know what Golgoroth challenge mode is?
I think you have to beat Golgoroth with all 6 members of your party getting the gaze at some point. So basically the way we used to do it, where you actually rotate. Right, the way it was intended to be beaten.
It's so funny how quickly that went out the window. I remember when we were figuring it out, thinking, okay, so it goes back and forth, and we toss it around. It took a long time, and then Well, I think we originally tried to do it with 2 people holding the gaze, and they would switch back and forth. Yeah. But this is all 6 people have to hold the gaze. Right. Which I hear is actually kind of fun and doable. It's one thing that was interesting about doing hard mode after not playing for a long time was how people have worked out a new way to do Golgoroth, which I thought was sort of interesting. And I know this is we're in the weeds now for anybody who doesn't play Destiny, so if you don't play Destiny and you're still listening, sorry. We'll talk about other video games too. The new strategy that we did was a Titan jumps down into the pit first, drops a bubble, everybody goes down and gets in the bubble. The gaze holder stands in this one certain spot, grabs his gaze, and knocks down the orb, and you can just run forward and just lay into him with weapons of light on from the bubble.
It's so funny, optimizing every second. It's like doing a raid is basically like speed running an old video game where everyone's constantly optimizing.
With 6 people, I was really amazed by this. I'm actually writing something right now about about the Oryx fight, which I guess we could talk a little bit about in detail, because I thought the way that we did that was so fascinating. The challenge mode Oryx fight, which I had never done. We've had a few, like early on when hard mode launched, we had a couple of attempts at Oryx hard mode and kind of realized, okay, we're not high enough light. This is a huge pain in the ass. I'm not doing this. I don't care. I had a similar thing with Crota's End actually last year, and then eventually just came back and did it once the light level had gone up, and it was really easy because I just wanted to get the achievement, but it was such a punishing slog, and I felt that way about Oryx too. So challenge mode is fascinating because you have to kill him by detonating all of the light bombs at once, which I think became a kind of preferred strategy for fighting him anyways, on hard no matter what. And I see why, having done it, because you just do the same thing 3 times in a row. And you don't have to deal with the light bomb section where you run around in circles, which is the dumbest part of that whole fight.
Yeah, and I think... Yeah, that light bomb section of the raid is really annoying. Yeah, I'm not sure why the 16 bomb strategy became the preferred version. Other than that, is there another reason?
I mean, it's cool. It's cool to say that you do it. You're detonating all the bombs at once. I think it's just a better way to do it. It feels like there are, especially on hard mode, anything that you do, there's some percentage of a chance that you'll fail, right? And if one thing goes wrong on hard mode, everybody, you're screwed. You have to wipe. Everyone's screwed.
Right.
Like if you lose one person. Setting off bombs is so dangerous. I can understand why doing it only one time is just much safer. That's true. It's interesting. It requires so many things. It requires that you kill the ogres extremely efficiently. So I want to hear what you were doing. My role was, I was in the middle. I was a Titan in the middle with our friend Mike. And we would, every single time Oryx would drop his fist, you guys would get ready to do the circuit. We would drop 2 bubbles, a weapons bubble and a blessing bubble. And then we both had Touch of Malice. And so you can kind of, if you're a Titan, you can use Touch of Malice with that last bullet by getting the shield from Blessing of Light. And then the Touch of Malice pulls the shield down before it pulls your health. So you can do those really, really damaging bullets.
And just keep dipping?
Yeah, and you keep dipping. So when there were 2 of us doing that, we would pop out, the ogre would come up, and we would just annihilate it. Like, it would just die in a matter of seconds. And that was what made the whole strategy work, because if they don't die in the same place, the light orbs can kind of get spread out. If one of them, runs off and gets into the middle of the room and then goes down, you're kind of screwed, and you can't really, or it would at least be a lot harder to detonate them all at once. So, and that was my whole job every time, was just this really regimented, perfect, kill the one ogre, kill the next ogre, and then on the 4th one, I get the one, Mike clears out ads, then we pull back in, and it was just so like clockwork, even though there's still these little inconsistencies in the actual design of the thing. But it was very fascinating. But you were up on the platforms, right? So what were you doing?
Yeah, my role was pretty easy. I just had to get on the platform for the light runner and then snipe the knight that appeared and then help clear ads. Mm-hmm. So like a bunch of acolytes will always appear, and sometimes these dick centurions pop up out of nowhere and try to ruin your entire day. But the knights were pretty easy. You just snipe them a couple times in the head and they go down. It was more about execution than the actual, like, in terms of you just have to do everything perfectly, and you have to really think about everything. You can't breeze through it. You can't make any mistakes, or else everyone's screwed.
It really does.
It's pretty fun.
It requires that level of focus that, I remember
very satisfying.
From past raids, and it was. I felt like there was a feeling that we all articulated as we were doing it, and we would fail. Something would go wrong because these tiny things go wrong. I remember one time,
but it always felt attainable.
Right. It wasn't like past times where I would see immediately early on, this is just not going to happen. We're going to be here for 4 hours, and then we're going to quit at 2 a.m, really angry and feel shitty the next day because we didn't get enough sleep.
But in fairness, you say that a lot. Guys, we're not going to be able to do this. Guys, stop dying.
Oh,
guys,
well,
everyone.
I say that before
please.
We start. I don't think I say it while we're playing. I think it's very important.
That's fair.
Not to get into that while you're playing.
But I recall you saying a few times, Jason, we're not going to be able to do this. We're going to try Oryx this weekend, and we're going to suck.
I was extremely skeptical.
Fail.
I was extremely skeptical.
You were proven wrong.
I feel like hard mode Oryx for me started to feel a little bit like Charlie Brown in the football. Adam Rosenberg was my Lucy, our friend Adam. who writes for Mashable, would always invite me to come play because he still plays a lot with people that he knows, and he's 335 light and says, "Oh, it's so easy now, come do it." And they invited me to do it, and they finally talked me into it. And it was a disaster. It was an unmitigated disaster. This was a few weeks ago. We were dying on every round. Everything was a mess, and it wasn't like because I hadn't done it or I was low light. I wasn't even dying any more than anybody else. It was just a mess because hard mode Oryx is really hard, and it was dispiriting and made me feel very skeptical that we could do it. But I was glad that we did.